On this Good News Friday, almost all the news is good for the markets and for Tesla. Is this a Nvidia rally? Possibly. Are folks starting to think AI will be a rising tide that floats all boats? Is Tesla about to head into the 200s again? Well, all that and more. This is Randy Kirk. If you like this kind of content on a Friday night where we kind of review the week and take a look at what happened to Tesla and the markets, then hit like. And then, of course, hit subscribe and notify. We've got more interviews coming up this weekend and a couple of special things you're really going to like coming up next week. So, and then, of course, if you'd like to help support the channel, hit Patreon. That's down in the information below. All right. Optimism is in the air, and it isn't because of the factors that we've all been paying attention to. Stop and think about this for a minute. When I go through this list, you're going to see all the things that everybody has said has been moving the market for the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, maybe even longer. They were all negative today, or they certainly were neutral, but mostly negative, and yet the market went crazy. So what's going on? Have we had a change in an understanding of what people are interested in? Is the movement makers going to change? Well, let's talk about it. So first of all, the inflation numbers. You know, at the beginning of the week, I said, wow, the biggest news of the week is going to be on Friday when the Fed's favorite inflation indicator, the PCE, is going to be reported. Well, it printed this morning and it was way worse than expected. So normally I would have thought on a Friday, you get that kind of news, the market would have gone down, maybe the Dow by 500, NASDAQ by 120, Tesla would have been down because, well, it just wasn't good news at all. Core PCE up was still 0.4% for the month, which is 4.8 on an annual basis. And it turns out that closely allied, the actual year-over-year number was 4.6. Spending was up 0.8%. Now, again, if this was a normal bull and everybody's looking, how's the overall market doing? How's business doing? Well, a 0.8% increase in spending would be something everybody be cheering, but not in this kind of market where this is not good news for the Fed. And income was up 0.4%. Again, wouldn't we all love to see that every single year if inflation was at 0.2, at 2%, annually. But in this market, no, the Fed would like to see wages inflating at about the 3% level, not at the 4.8% level. So anyway, all potentially good news for the economy, all not that great news for Fed watchers. But the markets didn't care. Moving on, Kevin McCarthy and the White House negotiators seem like they're making fabulous progress. Or are they? No, there's no deal going into the weekend. In fact, kind of sounded like maybe things were breaking down a little bit going into the weekend. Everybody was hoping for a deal that could be marked up and sent up to Congress next week. Well, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. But nobody cared. It was okay. But going into a Friday and the debt ceiling problem is still not resolved, you would have thought this would have been a negative to the market, but not today. Bonds have been screaming higher all week, and the inversion is getting worse. The 10-year bonds are now up to 3.8. That implies that the bond market think there's going to be another Fed increase in June. The market doesn't care. Normally, this would have killed the market. The mortgages are going to be going higher because they're usually pegged to the 10-year or to the 30-year, which is sitting at almost 4. So the NASDAQ and the risky growth stocks, they don't usually like these kind of increases in the bond rates, and they would have normally been down. And of course, the automotives don't like increases in the 2-year or the 2-month, and those are both going up and inverting more. But the auto stocks were all up. So anyway, something is going on. How about Costco? Well, Costco, you would normally look at Costco in this kind of a market where you're looking at a slow business economy. You would say, well, Costco is going to be a favorite, and it has been a favorite of Wall Street for a long time now. But their reporting came out the other day, and they said, they missed. And they not only missed, but they gave guidance that suggested that consumer discretionary purchases, larger items like appliances, doesn't look good going into the fall. Costco dropped a little bit on that news. I didn't look at what it did today, but it did drop on that news. But that kind of news is not stopping the market. So what's going on here? Well, you'd be tempted to say, and I would be tempted to say, that we are now entering an AI age. Two things have happened, of course. One was several months ago when ChatGPT became a thing, and the 100 million people jumped on it and started playing with it. And now there are apps coming out every day, plugins coming out every day, people who are reporting on Twitter, giving lists of 10 plugins that are the best 10 plugins for ChatGPT or for Bard or for large language models of whatever type and size. Yeah, so the ChatGPT thing has just absolutely energized everybody. You can hardly talk about anything else right now. I know that I'm spending time every single day researching various aspects of ways to use these models and to use these apps and to use these plugins, and jumping into all three of the versions that are now available, playing with them to see which one works better, which one doesn't work as well, for various purposes, because they each have their own specialization. So yes, that was huge news, and it caused the market to go, okay, we might be entering into a new age, into a new world, into a complete change in the way we see things. And that would be dramatic increases in productivity. Companies already laying off people where they believe that there's going to be an opportunity for them to automate jobs in using these bots instead. Well, then we've got Tesla coming out and showing Optimus moving along quite nicely at their earnings report a couple of weeks ago, which just gave one more reason why the change, the opportunity of AI and AGI is upon us. And then we have Nvidia, hits. Nvidia has got 90% market share in the hardware that they sell. Nvidia goes crazy when they come out with not only with their beat, but also with their guidance. But what is really going on, and where are the winners and losers going to be? The Tesla is the obvious biggest winner. They have the most sophisticated software ever conceived of by humans in FSD. They're working on artificial general intelligence with Optimus, and they have the largest, fastest training hardware in the world, which might be turned into a competitor to Nvidia, who now owns that 90% market share. So it's ripe for the competition. Cathie Wood comes out and says, yes, they think Nvidia was a big winner and they were heavily invested in it. And she's being knocked like crazy because they recently got out of Nvidia just before this crazy run up. But she made tons of money on Nvidia. I think they bought most of their shares at $5 a share. And she's saying, no, the next move, yes, Nvidia will do fine. She's saying that they'll increase their sales and their profits by about 15% per year over the next 5 years, or about doubling over the next 5 years. That's great. And lots of people would think that that would be wonderful. She has bigger fish to fry. She says the opportunity is going to be on the software side. That's where it's going to happen now. And so again, that's where Tesla is going to be involved in both of those. Tesla did sell off. Okay, so Tesla had a great week. Well, they had a great week because why? They had so many things going on that were super, super good news. Let's see, let's look at the good news on Tesla first. Okay, so the Ford deal. How many YouTube videos were made about the Ford deal? I think, the first one out, but maybe not. Anyway, there was a lot of people talking about the Ford deal. It was a big deal, and it's a big deal for a lot of different reasons. I'm sure that other people have maybe touched on all 6 of these reasons, but let me go through them very quickly. These are all huge. First of all, there's the income from Ford automobiles, Ford BEVs going to the superchargers, and also the sales of the adapters. This is a fairly minor thing, but it's not nothing. And it's going on for years and years and years into the future. This is not a one-time thing, but Fords will be going into Tesla charging stations for the next 50, 70 years, whatever it might turn out to be. Number 2, Ford owners will be getting a positive view of Tesla when they go to these superchargers. So that's, you can't even count the value of that. There's a massive, massive value to these Ford owners going into these superchargers. Number three, other companies are very likely to get are going to follow suit. They're going to follow Ford. They're not going to have a choice. The best superchargers are the Tesla superchargers. The best located chargers are the Tesla superchargers. The quantity of superchargers, not only per location, but also nationally, are Tesla superchargers. So of course, these other folks now have been given the door has been opened for them, if they are not in touch with Tesla now, to get in touch with Tesla and figure out how they too can have their people get adapters and or switch over to the new to the Tesla method, the NACS standard. So this is a huge, huge piece of news in terms of both number one and number two, that now other car companies are undoubtedly going to also be sending their people to Tesla superchargers. Now, Elon says, everybody can have their own app. We're not going to turn this into a walled garden. And that's very nice of him, but it still has this huge knock-on effect. Okay, this is Tesla's. This is big. This is huge. Listen to me now. This is Tesla's first deal with a legacy, and that opens the door to other deals. He opened the door right there in the conversation with Ford CEO Farley. They had, in the conversation, he says, look, if you need help with your over-the-air update software, give me a buzz. Let's talk about it. So all of the other car makers who've always known that Elon was willing to talk, but who probably are sitting there going, no, they're the competition. We can't talk to them. How can we bow down? No, we have to do it ourselves. Well, guess what? They're not going to have a choice. And this opens the door for those conversations to begin. The potential for intellectual property income from these other companies is almost unlimited. All right. And then number five, Ford said, hey, we're 100% behind the NACS standards. Nothing could help. I mean, nothing could be better for Tesla in terms of their superchargers than if everybody agrees to NACS standards, which are the Tesla standards. And then number six, the overall increase in brand awareness and the positives associated with the Tesla brand. Everything that I just listed is going to increase brand awareness and increase the positivity associated with the brand awareness. Number two thing that's happening with regard to the good news this last week, Elon out there over and over again in different settings, emphasizing that Tesla is the leader in AI and that Tesla's stockholders will be participating in Truth GPT. Again, it's mind-boggling to think how big these are, but it's those two things way bigger than the coverage that it's getting. And then with all that good news, smaller issues that are really meaningful, they're not even getting the headlines at all. So the mega factory at Lathrop increased the space available for storage of megapacks, which suggests that their ramp of the second half, phase two, if you want to call it that, at Lathrop is about to begin. Bradford Ferguson had said that it was not going to be till September or October. Maybe it's going to be earlier. Bradford Ferguson is also reporting another thing that's not getting any headlines, is that the Gartner Group, a very highly respected analytical group, does this thing where they call it the supply chain survey. They rated Tesla as having one of the best supply chains, the top 25. And if you look at their infogram that they did on this, it looked like they had Tesla at maybe the 12th or 13th best supply chain capabilities of any company, I guess, in the world. I didn't look at that, whether it was in the world or just in the United States. So after a great week for Tesla, after actually 3 great weeks for Tesla, good news, we're still bumping up against 200. We got to break through 200 in order for us to get to 217. And then we got to break through to 17 to who knows where we go after that. So I'm kind of shocked that we haven't gone through 200 yet. It is a tough barrier. Well, we then had a sell-off at the end of Friday. That could be profit-taking, most likely profit-taking, because you also saw other stocks, Nike and some of the other Kathy Wood stocks and whatnot. We did see a sell-off at the end on Friday. So I don't think it had anything to do with this one piece of bad news, although it happened at about half an hour or so before the close of business on Friday. There was this big data dump that was reported on by the German press. The data was all about Tesla's self-driving information, stuff about accidents, in fact, all accidents. So all Tesla accidents that they're keeping in a pile of data, suggesting, that there was a lot of accidents involving Teslas. Well, of course there are. There's a couple of 3 million Teslas out there. So I think at first I thought maybe that this information was related to the sell-off late on Friday. Taking a deeper look and also looking at the after hours where Tesla was continuing back up again, I think maybe this data dump, at least so far, hasn't had any effect. I think it's a big nothing burger. I think it's going to turn out that this is not news, but you don't know. Sometimes some kind of a dump like this could turn out to produce a few headlines, and always those headlines can be a little bit of a tough thing. So another great week, 3 weeks in a row of amazing news out of Tesla. Next week has got to be the week we break 200. Strap on your safety harnesses. The good news has only just begun. If you don't believe me, look at some of the other videos that I've been doing about Tesla in the last week or so. The opportunity over the next 9 to 12 months is incredible. I am also going to potentially do an update on my second quarter and full year analysis. Might wait until the second to see if we get the Chinese numbers and some of the European numbers for the month of May, but I've got itchy fingers to do it, so I might do it sooner. Anyway, that'll be coming up shortly. So if you liked any of this content, it was useful to you, to like, if you haven't subscribed yet, what's holding you up? If you haven't bought the book, oops, the book's not there anymore. That's right, I'm not at home. I'm in the beautiful Isle of Kauai. Anyway, so hit subscribe, hit notify, buy the book anyway, even though you can't see it. And then, of course, possibly join Patreon. It's been great talking to you.